Big color. Big color.
Bismarck, North Dakota. He graduated from Bismarck, North Dakota. He graduated as a bachelor's. Bismarck, North Dakota. As a Bismarck, 2017. As a bachelor's.
Good afternoon, everybody. So I'm not going to stand behind the podium for a couple of reasons. One, I have ADD and I'm going to move around anyways. Two, you can't see me behind me. I'm too short. So I do have to do some administrative things real quick and just kind of talk to you. I've had the privilege and honor of speaking in a lot of different places as being a guest instructor, a guest lecturer. I'm not going to stand behind the podium for a couple of reasons. I have ADD and I'm going to move around anyways. Two, and college. And I will tell you, out of all the places I have taught. So I do have to do some administrative things real quick and just kind of talk to you. I've had the privilege and honor of speaking in a lot of different places as being a guest instructor, a guest lecturer. I'm not going to stand behind the podium for a couple of reasons. ADD and I'm going to move around anyways. Get really tired. I'm going to do my best. I will tell you, out of all the places I have taught. So I do have to do some administrative things real quick and just kind of talk to you. I've had the privilege and honor of speaking in a lot of different places as being a guest instructor, a guest lecturer. I'm not going to stand behind the podium for a couple of reasons. ADD and I'm going to move around anyways. Get really tired. Out of all the places I have taught. So I do have to do some administrative things real quick and just kind of talk to you. I've had the privilege and honor of speaking in a lot of different places as being a guest instructor, a guest lecturer. I'm not going to stand behind the podium for a couple of reasons. ADD, and I'm going to move around anyways. Get really tight. Can't help it. It rolls out that way. Out of all the places I have taught. So I do have to do some administrative things real quick if you kind of talk. Here at Marion, because you are learning leadership from the day you walked in. And that carries you far. It puts you ahead of other people who don't have the opportunity to participate in programs like this. It helped me as a police officer with the City of Columbia to try out for SWAT earlier than others because I had the opportunity to train here and train with the military to become a leader. And so they gave me a little bit of a waiver so that I could join SWAT or try out for SWAT earlier than I should have been able to by policy. And I did well. Obviously, I made it. But those are some of the things you're going to have coming from here when you apply somewhere and you say that you went to Marion Military Institute. It's going to carry some weight. One of the challenges you're going to have will be the same thing that I have had. It's going to be your age, right? So I'm only 38 right now. When I first became chief, I was 29 years old. I was one of the youngest chiefs in the state of South Carolina. I was very fortunate. I was lucky and had opportunities present themselves where I was able to go in and utilize the training that I got from here to help me to accomplish those or get those jobs. And I would tell them all the time because, they would look at me and they'd think, man, you got this really young cat that thinks he's going to be able to come in here and do something. And I would tell them, you can look at my age and just call it what you want. Or you can look at the fact that Uncle Sam spent money and time and resources to train me to be a leader. And you can realize that you have somebody who's a leader at a younger age, and you can use those to benefit your department. And it's benefited me very well, and it will benefit you too. So it prepares you to be a leader. It prepares you to go out and to do things. When I was here, I had a major in the MS classes, and this major told me, he said, when you get to your unit as a new little butter bar, you need to remember you don't know anything. You have no clue what you're talking about, and you just need to go in and sell them that. And so I did. I got to my unit, and I walked up to my first platoon sergeant. I said, hey, Sergeant, I don't know anything. Will you teach me to be a lieutenant? And he looked at me, and he said, son, you're going to be all right. We're still friends to this day. He taught me so many different things, such as something as simple as we were in the field training, and this first lieutenant challenged me and said, hey, you're going to be the OP4 for this big training program we're doing. You could be as creative as you want to. And I said, cool. So I said, can I get a helicopter to insert the MPs? And he's like, MPs don't get inserted by helicopters. You said I could do what I wanted to do. He said, if you can make it happen, make it happen. So then I got it lined up, and he said, you can't do that. I didn't think you'd be able to get a helicopter to fly you guys in. But we trained for 3 days in a row, and I thought, hey, what's our Army good at? Fighting at night, right? So I said, we're going to attack them at night when we're the opposing force. And so we were up several nights in a row, and finally, on the last day, Sergeant Smith came over to me, and he said, sir, I got you some coffee. And I looked at him, I said, Sergeant, I don't drink coffee. His words, you do now, sir. I have drank coffee ever since that day. I still do to this very day. I can't start my days without drinking that coffee. So remember that when you get where you go or when you get into your leadership positions, you don't have to know everything. And that's okay, right? Do you think I know everything there is to know about law enforcement? Absolutely not. All right, so like those of you that are familiar with police work, you have several different areas you can work in. You've got traffic units. You've got narcotics and gangs. You have those people that just want to get out and do community relations. You've got all these different, you got investigators, crime scene folks. Well, I was never a traffic cop. Nope. I wasn't the one that wanted to get out here and stop people for speeding. If I stopped your car, I thought you had dope, and that's what I was looking for. I know that's a weakness of mine, so it's okay that I don't know that because I know who in my department does know that, and I can lean on them. I could call them and say, hey, give me some traffic ordinances or help me to do these different things, and they'll help me, right? They'll help me to make sure that I get it all right, and that's okay to not know all the answers. I worked a case I don't remember the year. We went to this case where it was just a call about marijuana. And I I'm a working chief. Anybody that works for me will tell you I'm a working chief. I don't sit behind a desk. I do sometimes, but I want to do police work. I'm a cop. So I get out and I answer calls. And so this one, I get up and I go out there, and the officers, I hear them get called out, and they're going. I said, I'm going to go. So I get there. They're coming through the driveway. I'm coming out of the office. And they're like, Chief, we were just going to drive through the parking lot, and we were going to clear. I'm like, not today, son. Let's go knock on the door. Long story short, we get up here and we start knocking on this door, and it opens, and there's marijuana that just rolls out of the room, smoke like you see on TV. We also see 2 women in there with a bunch of men. So we start to take some time to break it down, and one of the guys in the room, we pull him out, and he takes off running. Right? So I take off after him, and I chase him, and we get around this corner. He's faster than me. We get around the corner, and I don't see him anymore, so I stop. And this is where the training you have here, those field leadership reaction courses you have that cause you to think in stressful situations, I got around the corner and realized I didn't see him, and so I stopped. And I started to look. Had I not had the training out here, I would have kept running. Well, he was hiding behind a trash can, waiting for me to run past, and he was armed. He told me he wasn't going to jail that day. But I stopped and used my surroundings to call him out and to put him on the ground to take him to jail. And what it turned out to be, that little marijuana call, we start working it, and all of a sudden I found out I've got 2 victims of human trafficking in there. 2 girls who were forced to be trafficked, and I had no clue what I was doing because I hadn't worked in human trafficking cases. And I called the FBI, and they came in, and they guided me through it, and we worked through those cases. And it was all right that I didn't know all those answers. Now I go around and I teach police officers about human trafficking awareness because now I want them to know what I didn't know. Let's talk about some other things that are going to make you successful in leadership. Perseverance, for example. Life's always easy, right? No, not at all. So, as a kid, I grew up in a very abusive home. I was put in foster care because of the abuse I went through. I walked into school in kindergarten, and the teacher realized that my hair was all matted together from the blood from where I'd been beaten that morning. She refused to let me go, so I went into the foster care system. And the system's broken, so I kept going in and out of foster care, back to that home and back into that bad environment. In 7th grade, I got beat the mess up by my parents. They beat me until I was laying on the floor, and I'm laying in the fetal position, and they looked at me, and they said, "You are never going to accomplish anything in your life. You are going to be a piece of trash." And all I could think, I stood up and I said, "Watch me." That's all I could say. Now, I could have sat back and been like, you know what? You're right. I'm not going to accomplish anything. I'm not going to go anywhere. But I didn't want that to be the case. I didn't want them to be the winner, to say that I wouldn't accomplish anything, that they would get to bask in that glory of knowing that they ruined that opportunity. And so I worked my behind off. I got lucky, and Marion sent me a message when I was in high school and said, "Hey, we'd love for you to come here." My family didn't go to college. This was my opportunity to get an education. This was my opportunity to open those doors to show them that, hey, you are not going to keep me down. You don't get to say that I won't accomplish anything. And so I came to Marion, and I did well. I graduated. That was well. And to me, that was me persevering through what they've gone through. And it doesn't get easier after that. It's not always easy. It's still going to be hard. You're still going to be faced with decisions you're not going to know the answers to, right? It happens all the time. So what I want you to remember with that is persevere through things, but remember where you came from. Doesn't matter where you wind up. If you commission as a lieutenant, you came from somewhere, right? If you leave this career field or you don't commission here, maybe you're here on the leadership education program, and you leave and you go somewhere else to become a supervisor, you don't start out there, right? You've worked your way to that. Remember where you came from. I was working patrol in Columbia. We had this huge traffic intersection. Really big intersection, 5 roads coming together, power outage, and it's just me in the middle of this intersection. My whistle going, Tell them all, keep going, stop, go. And then this chief pulls up. He says, officer, you look tired. Yes, sir. You need some help? Yes, sir, I do. All right, I'll see if I can find you somebody. Boom, and he drives away. I'm like, that made me angry, right? Get out, don't ask me for help, and then just leave me hanging. So I remembered that, and I've tried to use that as a chief everywhere I've gone to remember what it feels like when they could help and they don't. Now, maybe he had something else going on, I don't know, but remember where you came from. Remember where you started. As a lieutenant in the National Guard in South Carolina, when we had drill, most of the lieutenants are in the office, they're doing their paperwork. That's what they're doing during drill most of the time. Not me. I'm out in the backyard with the guys, and I'm rolling in the dirt, and we're doing all this other fun stuff, and then I stay late so I can work on my paperwork so I can turn it in on time. But my guys would go anywhere for me because of that, because they know that I'm willing to get down in the dirt with them, and they know I'm willing to go wherever they go. When you're a leader, you don't say, you go. You say, let's go. Let's stand together and let's go do this job together. All right, so now I'm going to I have 4 kids. I have to preference this. 4 kids, 11 to 4. A beautiful wife, she's an angel. She sits at home and homeschools them with COVID going on. I can only imagine what that's like. It's an escape for me to go to work so that I don't have to try to educate 4 young men. See, when you're dad or when you become a chief, you don't get to be on SWAT anymore, right? So I refer to my children as my tactical team. And I've trained them. They know how to set up an ambush point. They know how to set up to clear a room. They know how to breach a door. They know how to attack Mama with Nerf guns when she comes in the house. She really enjoys it when we do those things. That's her favorite. So with those 4 kids, though, we have what you guys refer to as a minivan, right? We don't refer to it as a minivan at my house because I was a SWAT guy. We can't have minivans. We have a family assault vehicle, an urban family assault vehicle, right? Because we've got to throw urban in there. The doors roll open and my kids can roll out with their Nerf guns and they start rolling across, doing their thing. Right? So with our kids, though, we watch a lot of movies, a lot of kid movies. And I'd probably watch them even without my kids, to be honest. She's nodding her head yes, because she knows I'm kind of a dork. So how many of you have seen the movie The Lorax? It's okay, raise your hand. You don't have to be ashamed. The little orange guy, he speaks for the trees, got the cool mustache. How many of y'all had that mustache before? It's okay. We kind of like here. You know how I'm going to sidebar for a second. You know how you guys, when you get a chance to go home for the break, you don't shave? So what happens is you take these things off and it's kind of like, right? There's facial hair everywhere. When these guys go on break and they get home and they start sending pictures, y'all don't even recognize them. Like, who is that? Got these big beards. In law enforcement, we're that way when you go to narcotics. You can tell every new cop that's gone to narcotics because they'll be like this one day, and the next day they're like, I've got this big beard. It's the only way I can find drugs is to wear a beard, right? So, sidebar, anyways. So, the Lorax. There's a part in that movie that really stands out to me, and it's so applicable in a lot of ways to what you guys are going to do or anything you do, law enforcement, a new lieutenant, a new job, a new position. So there's this part where the Onceler, he's the guy who killed all the trees because he wanted to make a bigger factory. He's talking to this young kid who's asking about trees, and he drops down the last trupula seed. Trupulas were the trees, for those of you that didn't know. He drops the last seed for a trupula seed down to him. And the kid's holding it in his hand, and the Lorax looks at him and he says, I know it may seem small and insignificant, but it's not about what it is. It's about what it can become. So let's see how we can apply that to you, to your career field, to whatever you're going to do, to police work. And so the way I would do that is, as a police officer, this badge is what tells everybody I'm a cop, right? That's what you get. You guys see this, I'm a police officer. or a firefighter. I hope you don't think I'm a firefighter. Please don't think I'm a firefighter. I'm a cop, not a firefighter. No red. This badge represents us. As a lieutenant, you get those little butter bars. They represent you as a lieutenant. Or when you get a new job in the civilian world, you get a name plaque on your door or something like that. Or when you are out in the public wearing your Marion Military Institute, you've got those patches or those insignias on your shirt that say Marion Military Institute. So the reality is those things are just objects. They're small. You know, a badge is just a piece of metal printed in a factory. Same thing with a lieutenant bar. A small piece of metal that's just pressed in to be a lieutenant. You get these things, and when you put them on, it's really just that bar. But what happens is when you put it on, you dictate what everybody thinks about a lieutenant. You dictate what everybody thinks about a police officer. You dictate what everybody thinks about Marion Military Institute when you go out. When you do your social media posts. I know y'all don't get to go out. I do want to, another sidebar here. You guys are incredible. Coming to a new school like this in this type of environment when you're not used to it is hard enough. But y'all have done it with the masks on. And you've kept them on. You have been phenomenal with that. I could not imagine how difficult that is. I didn't have to do that. But I would tell you guys, stick with it. Because y'all, it's almost done, I'm hoping. You're almost to a point where you'll be able to go home. And it's going to be a pain to wear these things. I know you're sitting here looking at a calendar. Some of y'all got these calendars, you're marking them off, going, when can this mask come off? Right? Y'all are never going to want to wear a mask again. None of you in this room will ever become a doctor because you don't want to wear a mask. Right? Nobody, they're going to be like, do you want to go med corps? No. They wear masks. Never again. So, whatever you do, be proud of the fact that you guys have done this part with your mask. All right, going back to my other comment now. Told you I have ADD. We sidebar a lot. When you go out, when you do things, when you go home, when you get your new job, people are looking at you. As a police officer, people look at me. As a lieutenant, soldiers are looking at you. Anybody who's been around for a minute is going to know lieutenants have a bad name about getting lost, right? It's okay, you can shake your head. I was one too, right? And I thought it was just bogus until that one fateful day. I'm running this checkpoint, and they're all coming in. All these units are coming into my checkpoint. They're supposed to come in. I give them their directions of where they're going. They get out. Get out of my checkpoint. I got to clear for somebody else to come through. I got this unit that comes in, and I see these officers huddled around the front of a Humvee. They're lieutenants. And they're all over going, no, we're over here. He told us we had to go over here. No, he told us we had to go over here. We had to go over here. And all I could think is, I walked over and said, y'all give us a bad name. This is why everybody thinks we're stupid. Don't say that. You're here. Get out of my checkpoint, right? And send them on the way. But there's a reason people talk and make those jokes. There's a reason people might look at a police officer and have a negative opinion. Maybe it's something they've experienced in their life with them. I didn't always like the cops. So when I was in 9th grade, I woke up to a shotgun in my face. Sleeping on the couch. I get nudged in the face with a shotgun. My stepdad, and he says, where's your mom? I don't know. No, where's your mom? I don't know. Okay, you'll do. He drops the hammer back on one of the barrels, on this double-barrel shotgun that he's got. And here she comes on the back of a motorcycle with another man. And I watched him turn from me and kick the front door open, and boom! Click, boom! Opens it up, drops 2 more shells in, boom! Boom! He is a horrible shot. Thank God. But I woke my sister up and all this stuff, and I told her, she's my older sister, she's the only one that kind of went everywhere that I went with me. And I told her, I said, hey, Susan, call 911. And she's like, okay. This is the only funny moment of this story. I start out the front door. She says, hey, what's the phone number? Y'all, time froze. I looked at her. I said, it is 911. Yeah, I know. But what numbers do I dial? a 9, a 1, and a 1. I don't know if she ever figured it out or not. Somebody did, apparently, because of the shooting and the cops were coming. But I got out there, and my stepdad was beating my mom, right? And he took off. You know, the police officers came, and they were just kind of like, it is what it is. When I was a kid and I was abused, we lived in a small town, smaller than Marion. And my parents at that time worked on the police officers' cars. So they said, nah. They said he fell down the stairs. So see, to me, the police had failed me on multiple occasions. But you know what I have the opportunity to do? I have the opportunity to take this piece of metal that's really nothing. It's really small and insignificant by itself. And it gets plastered with something. And I get to dictate how people are going to view me and police officers and now the Isle of Palms Police Department by how I act and what I do. Just like you, when you become a leader of whatever it is you are going to do, whether it's in the military or whether it's in the civilian sector or law enforcement or even our friends, the firefighters that need heroes that are police officers. Regardless of what you do, you are going to shape how people view that job. If you go into it and you do a crappy job, guess what? People are going to think that that position is a crappy piece of position. If you go into it and you treat people like you were better than them, people are going to think that you are a jerk. And they're not going to like you. And you will form those images about you and how people perceive you based on how you act, based on how you treat people. So what I get with all that is you have the power to change how people view you, to change how people view Marion Military Institute, to enhance how they view Marion Military Institute. This is a small college, a lot of phenomenal things going on here. The amount of change since I was here, there's been a lot of good things. If you become a police officer or a lieutenant, you can make lieutenants look like they know how to do map reading. Just pay attention in orientation training, okay? Please, learn how to read a map. So one of the other things would be realizing that people make mistakes. Let's go back to my stepdad. My stepdad, when I got out there, he's on top of my mom, and he's beating the baby fool out of my mom. She's not the best mom. She left me abandoned at the hospital when I was a baby. Just left me there for the state to take me. And then she come back into my life and offered to take me to Walt Disney World. I've still never been to Walt Disney World. But that day, she's still my mom, and this guy is still beating the crap out of her. And so the police are coming, he gets on his motorcycle, and he hauls away, and he calls me, and he says, "You don't understand why I did what I did. I did what I did because I'm a man." Here's point number 1 from this story. In 9th grade, I told that man, no, I would never hit a woman regardless because I am a man. So in 9th grade, I was able to stand up to this outlaw motorcycle gang member and say, no, what you did was wrong. It was all fun until he said, cool, I'm on my way back to you. I was like, oh, crap. Right? We wound up moving to South Carolina to get away from him. That's how we wound up down there. And my mom, I went to visit some other family. I came back and my stuff is in boxes in the front yard. There's nobody around. Door locks are changed. And I'm standing in this front yard and I'm still in high school going, what do I do? At one point, prior to this, she had moved in with a drill sergeant and left us in our house. Just my sister and I, who were both in high school, we're working jobs to pay bills. Putting plywood over the windows so that we can keep heat in the house. Working so that we can keep food. We had a church down the street that would bring us a box of food once a month so that we could eat. Lots of croutons. I don't like croutons anymore. I despise croutons. Then she came back because her boyfriend dumped her. And then she moved, and I'm standing here now, and after I've gone to visit family, and I don't have anywhere to go, and I called my grandma. I said, hey, can I stay with you? And she said, I guess so. I guess I got room for you. So I moved in with my grandma. That's how I wound up here. But the other part of this story would be when I graduated high school, before coming to Marion, I already knew I was coming here, I called my stepdad. So my stepdad, when I was in 3rd grade, my summers were spent working. I wasn't allowed to go do things as a kid. I built houses every summer from 3rd grade up to 9th grade. That's what I got to do. I got paid for it. So summer before 9th grade, I was making like $500 a week. And when you're that young, that's good money, right? Even today, that's still good money for somebody that young. I bought a 68 Mustang, and I was rebuilding it. But when he tried to kill us, he took the Mustang. I didn't get it back. So when I was getting ready to graduate, I called him, and I was going to tell him, hey, you owe me a Mustang. And he said, Kevin, I want you to know that I've changed. So I sold my motorcycle. I don't do drugs anymore. I don't drink alcohol. My entire life has changed. I want you to come to Tennessee and build a church with me. So my first thought is, really? You've changed? You want me to come build more stuff? Right? But then the other part was like, maybe I need to do this. So I gave him that second chance. And I'll tell you, we still have a relationship to this day. He's been here for the birth of one of my kids. He's met 2 of the 4. He lives in Tennessee, so it's not like a quick trip over. But he did well. I forgave him. So the other part of this is, it's okay when somebody has wronged you to forgive them. Even subordinates that work for you, if you forgive them when they make mistakes, because everybody's going to make mistakes. Has anybody here not made a mistake in their life? Kind of what I figured. I've made my fair share. I still do. Right? As a lieutenant, I had the platoon that they would just send people to. Like I had this, I don't know why, but somebody who couldn't function in another one, they'd be like, here, let's send him to 3rd platoon. The 3rd herd, as we called ourselves, the Roughnecks. And I got this guy who was about to be court-martialed out. Couldn't pass PT test, didn't care, uniform looked sloppy, didn't shave. I was like, what am I going to do with this guy? Why don't we just court-martial him and get him out? So he came over, and I worked with him. I gave him a job that he liked. I gave him a saw machine gun. I said, your job is to keep people alive. That's your job. You know what? He went from being somebody who was about to be court-martialed to getting medals. He needed somebody to take time as a leader to focus on them and give them a task, to forgive them for the things that they've done wrong, and to say, hey, you still have an opportunity and you can still do well. When you become a leader, remember, you've made mistakes. You've made mistakes, and so have other people. You can still work with them. Don't just write them off. I'll tell you all that as I'm sitting here dealing with an incident from a police officer that just got sent home from the police academy because he sent a stupid text message. Now I'm stuck with trying to figure out if I'm going to keep him in the job or if I'm going to kick him loose and put somebody else in it, right? So we all realize people make mistakes. Let's recap some of this stuff real quick to make sure that I've covered everything. I haven't stood over here at all, so I'm going to stand right here. Maybe a little too close. Further back. Corona. Right? I haven't stood over there yet either. I'll get you guys. So let's recap. Perseverance. It's not always easy. We can get through it. We can work hard. Right? Forgiveness. Forgive people when they make mistakes and work with them, and people can be resalvaged. They can be reused. Told you I'd come over and get you guys. The biggest thing I want you to walk away from today was to talk about the Lorax. Because you can dictate what people think about you. Your leadership style will either make you excel or not. And you can grow really cool mustaches. Right? Even with the mask off. Trying to make sure I didn't forget anything else that I had on my notes. I think that's pretty much the main points, but I do want to make sure you guys understand this point, or this part here is different. Marion's got a lot to give you guys. Marion's a good school. You're going to build friendships here that are going to carry you all across this world. I can pick up a phone now, and between this and the FBI National Academy, I can call almost every country and have somebody. I can go to almost every state and have somebody, either from Marion or from the FBI. So please, take the time. You guys probably have more opportunities to get closer than we did since you couldn't go anywhere. You've kind of been trapped in this bubble, right? I see some people saying, "You have me forever. I'm never leaving this place again. It's like I'm stuck and I can't do anything," right? You guys go to sleep and you dream about those walls. They're painted different now. They were like prison walls when I was here, like prison cinder block walls. So at least they look nicer now. I went into Wilkerson earlier. Looks different. So build those relationships with each other. Make sure you keep those friendships when you get done from here. All right? I know normally we wouldn't open up for questions, but because I did experience this, where you've been or where you are, I kind of like to take a chance to say, if you have a question about life after Marion, I'd be willing to take those questions if you have them now. If anybody has them, you just have to talk up because I'm still half deaf. No questions at all. Yes, sir. So really what made me become a police officer, several reasons. So I went through my life and had bad encounters. My brother killed himself at 16 years old from everything that we were dealing with. And the police had just failed. I really didn't want to be a cop. I didn't grow up saying I'm going to be a police officer at all. I grew up saying I was going to be a soldier. But what happened was I got there and I needed a full-time job. And my friend said, "Hey, you should be a cop. They're hiring." I said, "All right." That's how I became a police officer. That's the crazy science behind it. But then I fell in love with it. There's nothing else I'd rather do than police work. I resigned my commission so that I could focus solely on police work because it was a calling. Once I got into it, it was something where I had the ability to help people. I told the law enforcement cadets earlier, it's not often that you truly get to help somebody. But when I got to look at a juvenile female who had been trafficked across state lines and forced to do things that she didn't want to do, that's why you stay in. I was able to free her and somebody else who was with her that had been trafficked for years. To take that time and get them free, that's why I do it. As far as why I became a chief, I saw bad leadership as a police officer, and I saw an opportunity that, hey, I'm not just going to complain about it, I'm going to do something about it. And so I worked my way up to become chief so that I could change that and be better. Good question, though. Any other questions? Anybody still awake? Bueller? All right. I think that's it, Sergeant Major. I'm going to give you the mic at this point.
Appreciate it, Chief. Thank you very much.